right, thank you guys for being here. We want to kind of introduce what we do in the space and what we're building here and what we like to call a really turnkey solutions ecosystem. So what we're housing inside of here, laugh at it already, man.
Just laughing at me.
Oh, man. Oh. So my name is Kyle Cumberland, I'm one of the partners of Skaled Sandbox.
David Soto, one of the partners of Skaled Sandbox. We have Judy and I and Michael and I, who are our other partners.
All right.
This is Roy Zur from Cybin Solutions, Brian Dickens from Cybin Solutions. We have Colonel Wright from the Arizona Department of Veterans Affairs. Is that right? Services, I'm sorry. Paul Smiley with Sonoran Technologies. And then Krista Fabric, she is our marketing director and everything else that we need Krista for. So what we're doing here is we're cultivating a turnkey solutions ecosystem. So about, say, 3 to 4 months ago, we really saw a gap in the market where it was in multiple markets. So we started originally in the education market, and it was the education market does not match the workforce market. And there's this massive gap in every single, I'm going to say, technology industry in the state of Arizona, where what the universities are churning out and what the workforce has to offer just did not mesh together. So what we tried to do was bring in specific industry experts and partners to be able to bridge the gap on that. So one of our partners is Cybin. They do very, very high level cybersecurity. It's training all the way from tier 1 to tier 4 complete simulations. So one of the things, I know you guys have all seen that very, very large room that's over in the other building at 3830. So that will be a full stack cyber war range. Self-funded between us and our partners. It is something that we will be able to offer to all the universities around the state of Arizona, as well as government and institutions, as well as corporations. We have the ability in-house with technology that we have access to link cyber war ranges globally for the first time. As well as that, so in that other building as well, I know nobody's seen it, we also have a 2,500 square foot full stack data center. Inside that data center, yes, we will use it for some of our technologies. However, we have partners that have military grade technologies that have been used on the battlefield in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Fallujah, where we, for the first time, can actually shut off someone from hacking you. What that means is, with that technology, they have been able to unencapsulate, I'm going to get a little technical for a second, unencapsulate TCP/IP. So what that means is, in simplest terms, is I send you a picture, okay? That picture goes 1 for 1. So now what they're doing is taking that picture, splitting it into 7 to 9 different parts, split over 2 internet connections, sending it all over the world. It automatically picks the best routes from a security standpoint. The keys change every 30 seconds in the process. It doesn't matter. Part of the packet might go to Turkey, part of the packet might go to Texas, the endpoint could be New York. It picks whatever the best route is all over the world. With that said, it's fast. It's 5 times faster and 5 times more secure than anything previously. What's really, really also neat about this technology, for the first time in the world, for data, an insurance policy, an insurance company has underwritten a policy saying your data will make it from point A to point B with no interruption and no loss of latency. So for the first time, it's military grade and it's faster. So that technology is being rolled out right now into platforms like TD Ameritrade. So everyday things that consumers use. It was primarily in the financial sector.
Correct.
Okay, other things out of here. So the whole education thing, we've partnered with a company, Bottega, where Bottega is actually the first development boot camp in the United States to have fully HLC or fully accredited courses in things like machine learning, Python, React, Ruby, and then multiple other ones. With Bottega's ability to educate people, we can stack that with companies such as Cybin Cybersecurity, because everything is built on those technologies that Eric's company has developed. I'm gonna add some stuff. I talk a lot.
You hit it all.
No, there's a bunch of other stuff. Okay, so here, real quick, sorry. Upstairs why I keep calling this a turnkey solutions ecosystem is because every single vertical, this business has multiple verticals. What I've just touched on is a really, really small piece of it. So David and my background is venture development, startups, things like that, but we've taken that a step further. So we're not an incubator, we're not an accelerator, nothing to do with that. We definitely don't do co-working, I know that's been asked before. So we have what we like to call the ability to do things in-house. So a lot of what we found in the past, in my experience with accelerators and David's too, setting them up, is it's a lot of mentorship and things like that, where they don't actually give you the resources. So we have been able to take our processes, and we're not going out and saying that we're taking in deal flow. It's going to be very, very specialized and very cherry pick that we find along the way of technologies that are to support our ecosystem and to support the state of Arizona's ecosystem. So when we go and do this, we will have the ability to do warehousing, logistics, fulfillment, product production. We can host anything, improve the technologies out on the data center. So while we're going through this process, essentially,
we'll be
yeah, sorry, my voice is.
Essentially, we'll be offering this, and one of the reasons that we have Colonel Wright with us is we have a partnership with Arizona Department of Veteran Services to do veterans education and do that transition with veterans from active military into civilian life. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then move that along. Working with Simon, we're announcing that we are having 12 scholarships throughout this year for veterans, and then we're going to also be rolling out scholarships for their spouses and their family members as well to go through cybersecurity education, which is one of our partners with Cisco. So it's going to be a corporate partner with us, and moving that forward so we can offer this and keep this going.
And so, Colonel Wright, you were talking a little bit about the fact that there are services available to veterans, but they don't necessarily always know they are there. And so you love this concept of
right, yeah. So what we call it in veteran terms, collective impact, right? As a collection, we're going to impact certain people. And it's not just veterans; we're 10% of the population, but women and underserved people. And so I enjoy the fact that there will be a place here that we can send veterans to that they will be able to right away figure out what's happening and be able to get on a path for education and employment and know exactly what's going to happen. It's hard for us because we're a little bit institutionalized, being in the military for so many years, to really be able to understand how to network outside of that institution and to be able to engage into educational opportunities as well as employment opportunities, because we've been in a place where they've kind of told us what to do and how to do it for ever so many years, from essentially a first time for 4 years all the way to people who've been in there for 30 years. And so we have to sort of reacclimate ourselves into our ability to be able to traverse that environment. And so I think this is a great way to do that, in that once they're here to get a little education, now we're talking about maybe an employment platform and some other things that can really support and mentor them through that process.
So to kind of tie into the employment platform, I'll let Brian speak to this maybe, or Brian or Roy speak to this a little bit. One of the things that we're doing, we do, just real quick before you guys go, one of the things that we also do is we have the ability, and I hate to use the word staff, but it's very, very specialized, where we can place people within the right talent pools, but that will be available in-house. So we actually have a company, they're going to be working, they'll be in this building once it's renovated. I'm very sorry for how it looks right now. However, so they will be in-house, that way when they do go through this education, whether they need resources, we'll have the ability to, veterans, women in tech, anybody who's being educated, we want to be able to have placement for them. So any of the programs that we do offer here, the placement rate is 95% plus. So I think it's very, very important. One of the other things that will be operated in actually this room and in the space behind there is going to be, it's vocational. So I'm kind of a really, really hands-on person. So I wanted to have something that was a vocational program. So it's a company, they're called Work In. They're actually out of Flagstaff. It is a 15-month program. They have direct placement by the 6-month mark, and then they're scholarship by their employer through the rest of the program. These guys come out with 8 certifications in all facets of welding infrastructure, structural development. The company actually, Colonel Wright, right now, I know you're very familiar with them, so they actually are veteran owned, and everybody going through it is actually veterans, so their placement rate is 100% right now. They have over a year waiting list, so we're going to try to help them out, bring them a location down here. Judy, one of Judy's companies, Victory Welding, is going to sponsor all of the welding materials to the school for the students. So those students come out with 8 certifications in 15 months, 15 months, and they have more experience than people who have been on the job for 7 years. We're finding. So everything that is here is extremely, extremely relevant. I'm sorry, back to Colonel Wright's point about the basically finding these people. I think Seidman has developed a little bit of a platform that will be able to pair these people directly together, and we'll actually be proving it out of here. So we'll be able to give people access to that pretty much immediately.
The talent network is going to tie into the educational side of Seidman as well. So as students go through, they're able to actually measure their skills and tie it into the actual talent pool. So when the workforce, industries, businesses, etc., are looking for those talented people, they actually can measure it based on their skill, not just whether or not they passed exams, whether or not they have multiple degrees or certifications. Those are all very important. However, we see a big problem with skills gap in this country, in cyber especially, and then also the deficit in workforce. So how do you solve for both of them? Make sure that we have skills, make sure the workforce knows which ones are skilled.
And this kind of ties into, I know what Colonel Smiley does with his company, Sonoran, and your background. Can you just kind of give a brief overview of Sonoran? And
Well, our main customer is the Department of Defense, and I would tell you that it's important because that is the biggest buyer of any dollar value here in the United States, Department of Defense. So every time you see the F-16 flying at Luke Air Force Base, my employees have trained those people. B-52 or B-1 or AWACS or RC-135, cybersecurity node. You see drones flying over Afghanistan. That data comes back to Nellis Air Force Base via SATCOM and fiber, and so we're part of protecting that infrastructure there too. But I would agree that the talent gap. On Tuesday, me and other Tim Benzola met with Linda McMahon. She is the SB administrator for the Trump administration. And according to her, there are 7.3 million jobs unfilled in the United States because we don't have the talent. So people get kicked off at the Microsoft folks are going to DC to get an H-1B visa to bring people talent in because we don't have that talent. Now, I will give you one piece of advice. We talk about the talent pool and what they do and how trained they are, but in my business, although we train pilots how to fly, I'm in the people business. And I use this term, right fit talent. I don't care how many degrees you got, how good you think you are, attitude is the name of the game, because I can't train attitude. So you may have the greatest person out there, he or she, with great skill sets, but if they're not the right fit for your culture of your company, you are going to fail. There's a saying, you have a mission statement and a vision statement, and I would tell you this, culture eats vision and mission every day for lunch.
Yeah, much to Paul's point is it really has to do with the holistic viewpoint in any type of workforce, regardless of cyber or not. And it comes down to really 4 points. We've talked to a lot of CISOs and CEOs and all types of military folks, and really what they talk about are 4 different things. One being the passion to succeed and passion for what you do, your work ethic, which also includes actually time in the job, on the job, and wanting to do it based on career, not just job. The attitude that Paul just spoke about, having it positive always in the mentality. And then lastly, the thirst for knowledge, which is one thing that's really lacking. Having an affinity to be curious and learning as you're going, as you're working, and then paying it back when you complete it. Those are really important.
How many people want to be business owners, own your own business? Show of hands. Okay. That's important. We use the term entrepreneurship, but I'm not sure what that really means. I'm a business owner. I'm a business owner.
And can I say that, because Paul is a veteran, right? And it's amazing to me, 9% of the US businesses are veteran owned. Imagine that that's like the GDP of small countries. That's how significant small business ownership is on the economy. And so, thank you for that. And veteran-owned businesses tend to hire veterans.
That's true.
And so we're very all about that.
Yeah, we're at 90% veterans, like 300 employees in 22 states, 90% veterans.
Yeah.
But I tell you about the business ownership because, as we mentioned to Ms. McMahon on Tuesday, the big elephant in the room is still access to capital. If you have a 500 credit score, the Pope doesn't loan you any money. I guarantee it. Access to capital, you got to figure that out. Best plan, best business strategy, best product, best service. If you don't have access to capital, you can't launch. So go home and check your credit score because that's the number one thing banks going to ask about. What is your credit score?
So we wholeheartedly agree with that. We're going to be partnering with some credit unions, specifically, I think it'll be USA and PenFed. I know they do some programs. Where
Maybe
we can-
Federal's pretty good too.
Maybe Federal. Sorry, I didn't
Like
mean to
them.
that. To do credit builder loans for the veterans, where it is just a very, very small loan, repeated automatically. It could be even off $100, but it is, from what we've seen, really, really substantial to these men and women to be able to have that and even start that before they get out. That way, when they do get out, if they do need access to capital, if they need access to whether it's capital for education, for going to school, or whatever that looks like on top of their GI Bill, we want them to be able to be prepped to come into the workforce in a very positive way. Kind of tying into that really, really quickly, we will be doing education-based lending out of here and some very specialized small business lending out of here as well. The education-based lending we're going to primarily focus on with the veterans, very, very low interest rates. I do not want to stack the deck against anyone.
We talked about this.
Yeah. So very, very low interest, specialized terms, specifically for education to the men and women who are veterans. So that's something that's going to be launching very soon around here, and we'll announce it to everybody when it does. So one of the things that we keep saying turnkey solutions. So in-house we have attorneys who are going to operate out of here that will be able to provide resources. Bert and Brent with HPS Law have been very gracious to have helped us out. They're going to be operating out of the front of this building a couple days, 1 or 2 days a week. We have to figure that out a little bit. But with that said, we want to be able to have people who are in this ecosystem, if they are students, to be able to get some legal counsel if they need to go and they want to do something like that. They want to start a business, whatever that may look like. I think it's very important to be able to have that. That room. So I'm going to kind of give you guys a visual. The room upstairs that's above the large room where the range will be, that will be a full production studio. All the equipment is inside of our data center. We waited to set it up until after startup week. We want these people, because I know with starting businesses of my own before, and Krista can tell you this is a lot of reason why we have her. Content, marketing, the ability to go to market with it is so important. So we want to be able to have that production studio, podcast studio, and all of the resources that it'll have inside of it so people can do their own digital media, digital marketing, and put it out. So any business that's involved in the space, it's open to them, and it will be later, by the beginning of April, open to the public for either rental or specialized situations, or we will be able to work. Everything that we do in here, everything is really a case-by-case basis. So a lot of the companies, we have our own startup companies that are coming in, and a lot of it really is a case-by-case basis where we want to provide people the resources so we can help scale and grow their business while they help support our ecosystem and scale and grow ours as we move out into other states and replicate this. I think that's really important to note. So it's not, for us, we are not all about let's charge somebody for this, let's charge somebody for that. It's creative deal flows, creative structures to be able to win-win for everybody kind of situation. And I think we can kind of all attest, and everybody on this panel, Judy and Michael especially too. When we started this, kind of just out of a conversation 4 months ago, basically, it was the underlying belief is we really genuinely want to help people. I know a lot of people say that, and it kind of gets like overused and it sounds lame, I guess, at the end of the day. But our core belief is we genuinely want to help people. I think that's why Colonel Wright's here. I know that's why Paul's here. I know these guys. So that we're gonna try to stick to that mission statement as we move forward and grow this out, hopefully globally.
Kyle, can you talk a little bit about the partnerships, how you guys went in 4 months from nothing to all these amazing partners, both public, private, military?
You wanna take that one or should I?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
It was a collective effort with the four of us to get the partnerships. We started with talks of what we wanted to build and the vision of that, and had a culture around what we were going for, all in the same understanding, and then started reaching out to individuals that we wanted to. Reached out to Eric, reached out to Brian and Roy, and started building this all around the need that we saw in the Arizona. I mean, employment rate in Arizona is up for the state, but yeah, there's still the continued demand. And there was the veterans that still needed. We wanted to assist that and get that transition going with veterans.
And I'll tell you why. When they come out, a lot of times they'll just get a job, which indicates underemployment versus actually careers. And so that's why that is an important point right there, that we want to get people into careers. We want to give them the education and the background that they need to actually be able to look forward and say, I can see my future.
Right.
Yeah.
And whether they were going into the technology field, which is a growing field, or they were more hands-on, and we have that ability for them with War to Win. We wanted to make sure that we addressed all the needs in which specialty career that they chose to go into.
And speaking of careers, I think, Roy, you have one of the best concepts about how to introduce
Sure.
people to the
Yeah.
careers.
I'm the CEO of Cybint. Originally, I'm from Israel. I'm based in New York now, but the challenges that we are facing in Israel, for example, in Israel, it's the military service is mandatory, and I've served for about a decade in the cyber unit in Israel. And one of our challenges is how you take 18-year-olds without no previous experience and you make them ready to start working as cybersecurity, cyber intelligence, cyber warfare experts in a matter of months, because you don't have the mandatory services 2 to 3 years. So if you'll send them to the university for 4 years or community college for 2 years, you'll just, we won't have time to serve in the military. So the concept is that we built these, and I'm not talking about the company yet, I'm talking about Israel and my position in the military. We build these accelerated learning programs that are focused on hands-on workforce development, making people ready to start working, in a specific position. So one is that the notion that the thinking of you have to go through, and I'm not saying it should replace the community college. I'm not saying it should replace the university, but I'm saying it doesn't. You can start, by getting the skills you need to start working. At the same time, get your degree, right? Either associate degree or whatever. But it doesn't. You can start working because the market needs it, and you don't need to be afraid of it. I mean, cybersecurity for some people, they think this is some kind of you need to have these special forces, special skills, something that, I would say that 95% of the cybersecurity space is comprised of skills that almost everyone can do. Of course, you need to have the right mindset, the right approach, the right work ethics. But this is something that actually talk about veterans, but not only, they have all of these, and even more than the basic requirement. So it's a great path, to go through. That's one. Second, another thinking is a lot of people think about cybersecurity and IT as the same, even though these are different. You can think about cybersecurity as part of IT, or you can think about cybersecurity as part of computer science. But in my point of view, it's different. You can be a great programmer, or you can be a great cybersecurity or cyber intelligence expert without being a great programmer, without being a great IT person, because in cybersecurity, and we just had a discussion about that before, there are different layers. For example, my specific field of expertise in cyber, let's call it, is cyber intelligence. I'm more the investigative analyst type of person that will go and hunt for evidence and analyze how the enemy, in this case it can be a hacking group or a government-led organization from the other side, trying to infiltrate our facilities, and less about building the security infrastructure, while others will build security infrastructure, while others do secure coding. So there are so many different flavors and different aspects of cybersecurity. And what we do at Sided actually, and this is what we're going to do here, is that we take and we keep developing all the time new programs, hands-on, military-grade, state-of-the-art programs in all levels of cybersecurity, from the cyber for non-tech up to the most advanced cybersecurity and simulation, access to ranges around the world, as you said. And we're launching these cyber centers with partners. Hopefully, we can do it together in other places as well, part of your global approach. In the United States, in Brazil, in Italy, in France, Israel, Singapore, Indonesia. I mean, it's really something that it's going global, and it's creating communities that are global.
You know, and in fact, we've been doing cybersecurity for the last 50 years. We call it information assurance,
Right.
information warfare, information operations. The name just changed.
Yeah, right.
But the name change made people scared of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, from my perspective, cyber prevention is part of everybody's daily life. About 4 years ago in the West Valley at Bashes, they had an incident. Swipe your credit card, your debit card, everybody got hacked. You see on the news, everybody had it all the time. So the term is new, the concept has been there for a long time.
So to kind of play into that, one of the things that we are going to be doing out of here, and it will run out of our data center. I can't say any names, but I'm sure a lot of people will have an idea of who it is. We have the ability to do real-time cyber monitoring with, it's basically co-effort approach between local law enforcement, Department of Homeland Security, FBI, and CIA, and other entities, where we can actually find threats a full 24 hours in advance before a company would even know that they are hacked, and then push those out to whatever agency, global organization, whatever that looks like, whoever needs to be, gain that information or has access to that information. So we will have the ability to do that here in-house. It's run at the classified level, and it will tie into a lot of the education, a lot of the training. We want to be able to, part of the education is we want to give the people who are in here access to real things that are actually going on. We don't want to give them scenarios where it's, okay, go try to hack into this, or go try to tell us why this guy hacked into a scenario that already happened. It doesn't matter, it's in the past, it's irrelevant. And those hackers are 10 steps ahead by now, so they can do it better the next time. So we want them to be able to be involved in things at the time that it's happening. Obviously, they will not have complete access to all the feeds, but there will be certain feeds that will be able to be accessed at an ethical level. We want to keep everything in here. I need to emphasize this when it comes to cybersecurity. All the range, all the simulations, all of the data monitoring will be very ethical. We wholeheartedly believe in that.
So Colonel Wright, another thing that you're passionate about is women, because obviously you as a woman, you were communications director,
Yes.
and you said you could not recruit women. So how do you see, and you see a lot of men up here that are in the, in the
it's like one
cyberspace,
thing's
right?
not like
So
the other, right? In my capacity as the state veteran, I'm always looking for things for women veterans because they seem to be much more vulnerable than our male veterans. There's fewer of them, and they don't have the resources that people just automatically assume all veterans should have. And so I always have a special sort of insight about what we need to provide for them. And women in general, when I was a communication commander in the mid-90s, so this is a little while back, I searched for women who were in the IT realm. It didn't matter what it was. If I could find them and get them to come work for me, it was a coup for me. And it was like impossible to do at the time. There weren't a lot of women anyway in that kind of world. And you know, if you found them, they'd get picked off by another company who could pay more because they were so special, right? So I am very much about part of this collaborative being, you know, as we go for veterans, specifically women veterans and women in general, to bring them into this space because they're great analysts and they're very specific in how they view things. Women are better shooters than men, and there's a reason for that. They're breathing, and so there's certain things about women that we need to take advantage of, and I mean in a good way, to support cybersecurity in the IT realm.
Yeah, we discussed about it earlier, Colonel, about the fact that, for example, in the position I'm still doing screening and some training in the Israeli military for cyber positions, and in the analytical cyber intelligence position, there is a majority of women. About 60% of the cyber unit analytical positions are actually women because again, I'm not getting into. I don't really understand the differences. From the gender perspective, that's not my position. But the fact shows that they're doing better.
And that's the culture shift we're going through. If you say to someone, hey, I have a friend who was 20 years ago, they will automatically assume that's a female.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a culture shift of what you can do.
Right.
Well, I was gonna say, in your 90% veterans, how many are women, do you know?
I want to say about 20%.
Yeah, that's pretty high.
That's because some of the women are relatively, they didn't retire from the military, the Air Force, they separated for 5-6 years, so that number has gone up. But I would tell you, when I do research at Arizona State, where I used to teach at the West Campus, we had graduation in December. 60% of the women graduate were women, and Hispanic. Yeah. So we are seeing a huge trend of women finishing school, going to college. So that the 1950 Harry Ozzie model is gone.
Sure. So 40% of our enrollment, our university enrollment right now is female. And I just want to quickly mention that the way we've been able to achieve that is to re-engineer programs that were legacy, that were years old, and were biased or designed toward who was enrolling in them. So the barriers to entry in higher ed caused terrible slow revision cycle. A lot of people don't even realize the Department of Education has a rule that as a college, we cannot update a curriculum more than 20% in 1 year. And this is really tough, right? So we've committed to going back and just like completely re-engineering programs just about every year, and that's allowed us to rapidly introduce something that was sorely lacking, and that was individualized skills-based and fit assessment. So we introduced people to foundation courses that expose them to what some of the different areas they could go into are, and then help them experience success. Because the biggest problem we had with women early on in the establishment of the Computer Science College was that they would self-select out because they didn't fit their own definition of the stereotype, right? So we had to strategically create fun, engaging, successful, hands-on, project-based learning. Like I love what you guys talked about. We do everything in computer science the same way. So we give them wins, and then not only did I have a win, it was kind of leaning toward project management. It was kind of leaning toward coding, or it was leaning toward design. And then they're able to choose certification tracks that give them a certificate they can put to work immediately, but also credit towards a degree at the same time.
That's awesome.
It's great.
What course was that? Computer science would be the main one, but there's a variety of
Different
tracks.
tracks.
Okay.
I know.
We still hear in the public that in that realm, there's still the hiring of women is still below par, right? And so we have to figure that out.
Yeah. And that's one of the things we've talked a lot about veterans and getting veterans in here. But the other issue that Colonel Wright brought up is that we are also addressing bringing more women into the tech field and doing that through here as well. So when we do offer these services, and as we are, it's going to be geared towards veterans, their families, as well as women in tech, and as well as the underserved, like Colonel Wright brought up early, and getting the underserved into the tech, because we are also offering we'll be offering some outreach into the community to get those that are, for lack of a better word, tech illiterate, and getting them up to where they have that basic understanding of cyber, and getting them into that tech so that they can choose to go into a career that they can support themselves.
I think there's one really good point that I need to make, and there's a reason why there's so many partners involved with this. When we set out to build this, it was something that we knew right out of the get-go. We can't build this at this kind of grand a scale alone. We are not in competition with anybody. I think that needs to be said right out of the gate. It's a very collaborative effort among many organizations, and to be able to pull something like this off, specifically here in the state of Arizona, it takes resources from every single facet in business and background and different countries involved, and minds coming together. Especially with any of the education in the university world, we want to keep this very collaborative. We want to work with all of the area universities. Myself and David advise at multiple area universities out here. For the first time, it's really how do we fill a gap in the market collaboratively with the outcome, the best outcome actually as the people.
And as well as going into the community colleges, Maricopa and the other community colleges throughout the state to nurture that learning through that environment, through the community college and into the university, and then through the programs. So, and kind of reverse engineering the thought, like Roy brought up, is getting the understanding, getting that basic, quick insertion of tech so that they can earn an income while they're going to school.
And to that point, one of the things that we will be doing out here, we've already made outside deals with other companies, is we're a big believer in apprenticeship programs. So just back up to the startup world for a second. Biggest problem when you have a startup is getting paid, honestly, while you're trying to build your idea. So we kind of took that model, maybe you want to call it kind of like a think tank type of dev model, maybe take kind of a principle of that where these people are going to school, but they are also working and getting paid on real things that they're really going to come out of school and be done while they're being, I hate the word mentored, but oversaw by an industry expert to be able to guide them in a path while they're on their path of education and get paid in the process. So really
Best of both worlds.
trying to bridge the gap in there. And we're very thankful there's a lot of companies out here in Arizona that want to do that, and they need the talent.
Yes,
So
that's really the key.
Right.
They need the talent.
they need the talent. They're
their
willing to
skill.
pay for the talent,
Right.
and as long as we give them the people that can fulfill the needs that they have, we have no end to the pipeline essentially.
I have one more thing I want to add, Kyle, and I think we're getting to the point probably in 2022, 23, where a huge segment of the population are retiring. We need to replace those folks. And they are retiring. I say it all the time in the DoD spectrum with a GS employee here. They got the money saved up, they go to the Bahamas or wherever they go. And so we got to replace these folks, really.
Yeah.
I'm on that list.
Can I come with you?
Far away.
So our time just about up, but it's obviously many highly successful business people on this panel. Many exits have happened on here. Many big companies have been built. Can you give the startups one piece of advice on seeking out partners to help grow and scale their business?
Yeah, sure. So I think David and I actually had this conversation the other day, and I know we did Krista too. I think one of the biggest things that startups always focus on in this day right now is, okay, I need to get my marketing, I need to get my advertising, I need to do my web design, I need to push my messaging to as many people as possible. Just get it out there, get it out there, get it out there. That works in a product industry. If you've produced a product and you already have it rolling out to market, yes, marketing and sales are absolutely your best friend. You need to spend the money on sales. You need to have sales teams to push it out there. If it's a service, yes, but more so, it's client relationships. Forget. Oh, I know this is you're gonna like shun me for this, Krista, but in professional services, so with my family's company, Tectonic, believe it or not, so we've 700 people, 24 states. And 3 countries. We've done about 0 in-house or external marketing. It's all built through partnerships. It's all built through relationships. It's all built from actually talking to people. Believe it or not, like I used to go out there and shake a lot of hands and just have conversations with people. It's about getting the work, and it's about keeping on your vision and following through. I think what I've seen is, kind of have this like New York mentality that I grew up on where I want everything yesterday. But too many times I've even experienced, I think we've all experienced out here or in every place we've lived or worked at some point, somebody says they're going to get you something and then they wait 3 weeks to get it to you. It doesn't work. If you tell someone you're going to get them something, you get it to them and you get it to them early, and that's how partnerships are built.
Right. The biggest thing is the way I look at it with the companies that I've had and I've exited from, it's delivering on what you say you're going to do, overpromise, underpromise, overdeliver. Okay? And then you have partners that fit into a network that are coachable. When you have employees, they're coachable. When you have partners, they're coachable. They're understanding, and you all are strong in different areas, and you challenge each other and push to a greater thing. So And it's all about carrying out that message, that original message, and staying true to that message and delivering on it. So,
Yeah, but, well, go ahead.
I would say my number one rule is only do business with people you trust. Period.
Yeah, that,
Period.
I was going, I'll echo that. Don't discount nor dismiss the people around you and whether or not they like you and you like them, because you want to spend a lot of time with these folks.
I know, I talk to you way too much,
Yeah,
Brian.
right. 3,000 miles away, and it's like, I talked to him when I talked to my girlfriend.
Oh, man. You're gonna get me in trouble.
I get to leave.
Oh, she's gonna come after
so, but yeah, it's all about having that bond with your partners. If you can survive a car ride with a business partner for 8 hours, that is somebody that you want to work with. If you cannot survive that time with them, don't work with somebody else. So that's the way I built my companies in the past. So I can survive a car ride with somebody for 8 hours. I want to work with them.
Yeah.
And that's why I've built relationships, and I have good partners like Kyle and Judy and Michael to do this. And then we also do that when we search out to find partners that we've partnered with. We work with those people that we can survive that car ride. Because, I mean, we're looking for this to be a long-term process and then replicate the process across the country with our partners.
I think what you just stated is the difference between relationships and networking. I'm not a big networking guy. Networking means, what can you do for me? A relationship means, what can we do for each other?
Right.
That's what relationships mean. Yeah, speed networking, which I really don't like speed networking.
No, it's a pleasure networking with you.
No.
No, but never shun from talking to people.
Yeah.
Talk to everybody.
Yeah.
Because you never know where your next partner is going to come from. That's the biggest thing.
I think our time's just about up. Were there any questions for this panel?
I was curious to know how much you're going to try to make this kind of a one-stop shop where you push other services like financial literacy or parenting skills or communication or negotiation. Because I've come from the nonprofit world and we'd love to partner.
So it's kind of an interesting question. We do want to play in other areas. So one of the things that we're going to be tacking on to almost everything we do is we have just a really small example. I don't want to call it a product, just a service. It's actually a reading program. It was used in the White House for many years to train their staff. It's something that could take. It doesn't matter anybody in this room. I know I'm a pretty poor reader and don't have me type anything ever. So it's something that can make you read about 300% faster and 300% more retention. So it's things like that we want to tack on. I don't want to say tack on, but bring that are a real benefit to people and then apply it to every industry. So to answer your question, yes, we very much so would like to look into other areas and other things that are complementary services.
And it's developed by a veteran too, out in Scottsdale.
Any other questions?
So will you guys host? Are you guys going to host the representative for the SBIR programs, the Biz Ops pages?
We've looked into hosting that kind of thing right now. It's part of the reason why we're leaving that big room open in the back to be able to do things like that. No, not you, Kristen.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say something.
Oh, no, I said, I think the panel here, I'm here locally, and so I'm more than happy to come down and kind of share experiences with people about that. Again, my business is DOD contracting. I'm not a construction kind of guy, but I'm more than happy to share the lessons I've learned over the last 11 years with folks about how to do that.
Yeah, we have Colonel Smiley. We also have another partner that wasn't able to be here today, Salute Media, that's open to doing stuff. James Sawbush.
And we have a place called the PTAC. It's called the person. It's a free service for businesses who want to learn about a business plan or doing business with government. It's all free service, and there are a lot of free services here. If you ever talk to Jim Pipper and the guys down at the SBA office, they're fantastic. There's a lot of free stuff that we pay people to do, so and those services are available to you. SBA is a good place to start, really.
And we'll be having a lot of those services rotate time through here, and we'll announce as they're visiting.
Any other questions? Well, thank you everybody for joining us
Thank you.
today.